Hey, people. Welcome. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Hope you're all doing well. And I hope you remember about diminishing marginal utility, because that's what we're going to be talking about today, except a little bit different, because we'll be talking about how the community's demand may not reflect individual diminishing marginal utility. And also, I want to get a little bit back to marginal utility and talk about how experience may contradict the idea that marginal utility declines with consumption. Here, for example, I have a cup of coffee. A lot of people don't like coffee when they first have it. Your practice makes perfect. Also, lots of people will drink more coffee when they're sitting with their friends than they will by themselves. Not me. I always drink a lot of coffee. My father was in the coffee business. I grew up on coffee. Before that, he was in the milk business, the dairy business. And he actually once said that ice cream is good for you. It has protein and calcium. What people will think and what they'll even say in public. May have been Louis Brandeis, the Supreme Court judge, who's from Massachusetts, or somebody else said that it is very difficult to argue with somebody whose financial interest depends on any particular idea. Something that I'm really butchering that quote, and probably butchering it. May have been Upton Sinclair, now that I think about it, who said it. But okay, what happens to total amount purchased when prices rise? The orthodox theory is straightforward: diminishing marginal utility. The higher the price, the less you'll buy. If prices go up, you reduce your purchases until you equate marginal utility with the new higher price, which means buying less, because when you buy less, your marginal utility is higher. Now, this is maybe true only for isolated individuals. It's not necessarily true even there, as we'll talk about. But when you get to groups, the whole theory goes away, and you may have an upward sloping aggregate demand, even if individuals have diminishing marginal utility. Okay, the orthodox theory. But to be sure, sometimes we like things more after we consume some. My wife and I have been watching Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. The more Star Trek you watch, the more Star Wars you watch. You know, the more, what the hell, the more Vampire Diaries you watch, the more you want. Maybe not true, Vampire Diaries. I guess that's closing down. But for now, who knows? Move back. In social context, marginal utility may be influenced by others, so that when prices rise, you may want to buy more to impress other people. Or because if other people are spending money on this, you think maybe it's a good thing. You may want to join with others. Or you may just find it more convenient to fit in with others. Whatever, changes in preference, income, price of complements or substitutes may change the amount we buy by moving the demand curve. But that's kind of a separate thing, and we'll do that at the end because it's actually very important. But so we have to talk about it, but it's not big enough for a whole lecture, so we just squeeze it in. Okay, orthodox approach assumes we're all stupid sociopaths. But in practice, we learn from experience. You consume and you may decide, hey, I like this. I want more. Ooh, I like it so much, I want even more. I like it so much, I want even more. Also, we learn from others. If it's cheap, it must be bad. Oh, that doesn't fit with the theory of diminishing marginal utility and downward sloping demand. Or it may fit with the theory of diminishing marginal utility, but it does not fit with the theory of downward sloping demand. We may buy to impress. We may buy to fit in. Lots of reasons why, when quantity purchased by the community increases, you may decide to buy more, even if prices are higher. Some of this goes to Thorstein Veblen, a very smart and very odd American economist from the late 19th century towards the mid 20th. He had a great deal of influence, but he never was able to hold down a job because he was such a shit as a human being. So many smart people like that. Is intelligence negatively correlated with emotional decency? I wonder about that. And people will have all sorts of good, virtuous ideas, but it doesn't work when they get into public life. Okay, we learn. Pleasure can increase when you consume. Well, that's why your parents took you to museums, like the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum, which if you've never been to it in Boston at the Fen, right across the street from the Museum of Fine Arts, you should go. If you've never been to the Metropolitan New York, then, oh my God, what's wrong with your parents and your schools? There's Washington crossing the Delaware. But anyway, people take kids to museums. The kids would say, oh, I'd rather be doing whatever. But the idea is we introduce you to good things, and then maybe you'll like them more. Upward sloping marginal utility. Good wine. God, this one's way out of my price range. I looked it up. Over $1,000 a bottle, Lafite Rothschild. A lot more expensive than it used to be. I think some of these high-end French products are in very limited, you can't really increase the supply. So demand increases, like Monet's, Van Gogh's, fine art. You can't increase the supply. So as societies get richer, as people discover good art or good wine, demand goes up. And then when people see how expensive they are, they want it more. Upward sloping demand. Hollywood's discovered this, as I brought up earlier with Star Trek and Vampire Diaries, Jurassic Park. How many? 6? Are we up to 6? Marvel movies? I have no idea. We did just see Ms. Marvel, which was fun. I liked it more at the beginning. I liked her, Kieran, or whatever her name is. I liked her. My wife did. One daughter's really into Star Wars. One daughter's really into Star Trek. So I kind of have to be in both. But anyway. And they're coming out with a Lord of the Rings, a prequel. I'm hopeful about it. They're going to be Game of Thrones prequels. I will not have anything to do with any Game of Thrones prequels until they redo season 7 and 8, especially 8. That was so bad. Unforgivable. Okay, how do we react when prices rise? The Orthodox theory, as we said again and again and again, downward sloping marginal utility leads to downward sloping demand curves. You buy less until at higher price until marginal utility equals the new higher price. Prices fall, you buy more until your new lower marginal utility equals the new lower price. The real world social demand, you're apart from that, your marginal utility curve may be upward sloping. Even if it's downward sloping, you may buy more when others are buying more. Higher prices may signal status. When the price is higher, it's like, oh, wait, this is worth more. You may want to be part of the group. You don't shop only for yourselves. I mean, some things you do. The coffee you drink at home, that may be just for yourself. But And you see this all the time. Your parents may have bought better coffee or better wine when they had company over. You may buy better coffee or wine when you have company over. If prices really fall, will men wear dresses? I doubt it. Why do we care what others do? Social source of utility from consumption. Here we get the Veblen effects. You want to show off. Bonding. You want to be part of your group. Information. You don't know whether it's good, but when it's expensive, you figure it's got to be good. If others are buying it, I'll fit in and it will be better for me if I have it also. I may not like US voltage standards, but I want a plug that will fit into my wall socket in the United States. Doesn't matter how cheap the European outlet plugs are. I need one that will fit into the US. Network effects. Showing off. You know, runway dresses especially are basically about showing off. You know, that you can have these expensive dresses, that you can have access to expensive clothes, that lead designers will try to dress you. This is named after Thorstein Veblen. Veblen effects in his theory of the leisure class. If you're feeling bored, pick up the theory of the leisure class. It's a really good book. He has a lot of profound insights. And he coined the phrase conspicuous consumption. You consume so that others will see how rich you are. You consume to impress, to show that you're successful. A lot of women's apparel historically has been to signal that the wives of powerful people don't have to work with their hands. So they can wear shoes that are uncomfortable. They can wear corsets that will make them faint if they try to do anything. They don't need to walk fast because nothing will ever threaten them. They wear uncomfortable, the women will wear uncomfortable clothes to show that they don't need to work, do manual labor. Look, rather than torturing women with uncomfortable clothes, let's just burn $100 bills. Really, rather than buying crap that degrades the environment, let's just take our money out to the front yard. Everybody will go there and we'll all make bonfires with our money. And the last bonfire to go out wins because you clearly have the most money. Okay, other times you buy to join the crowd because you just want to be part of the crowd. You may, we had a wedding this summer, people coordinated, women coordinated their dresses. So, everybody would be wearing a similar color palette. Bridesmaids and sometimes groomsmen will wear similar clothes. Sometimes you'll wear similar clothes like going to prom at the end of high school. You'll wear, but you want your clothes to be a little bit different. That you express your individuality while still being part of the group. You go to the Red Sox games and you wear your Red Sox hat because you're part of the group. Sometimes you follow the crowd because you think they know better. This is information. You don't know whether the car is going to be any good, but everybody else is driving this type of car and it's working for them. And okay, it's high priced, but you think it's going to be good. You buy a BMW, confident that at that price, it's going to be good. You see a laptop on Craigslist or something for $100, you're not going to bother. It's just going to make all sorts of trouble for you. It's too cheap to be any good. $1,000, you may check it out. How do you know quality? We don't know quality. And some things we're particularly sensitive about. Wine. People are very anxious, often very anxious about whether they can tell a good wine. Americans often don't have a whole lot of experience with it. So they stuck a bunch of people in an MRI machine to measure their brainwave activity to tell whether or not they were happy. And they gave them wine. They told them the price of the wine. People thought the higher priced wine made them happier. Their brains lit up in all the right places when they were drinking wine that they were told was expensive, even if the wine they were drinking was cheaper than the wine that they were told was cheaper wine. So they were given bad wine, but told it's expensive, and they were happy. They were given good wine and told it's good, it's cheap, and they were unhappy with it. We often judge quality on the basis of price. If it's that expensive, it can't be bad. It can't be that bad. If it's that cheap, it can't be that good. This is the most expensive bra in the world, at least a few years ago, $10,000 or something. Most expensive smartphone, silver plated. I was like, why? Why would you want something like that? Expensive cars, handbags. It's like, really? You want the same handbag? You go to Canal Street in New York and you'll get it for a fraction of the price. Just stay ahead of the police. Let's hope that this is going to go away. Okay, what is this?
Call from
Tammy Guvia. I'm not sure who it is, but okay.
Call from
Let's see if I can. Okay. Do you buy less when it's more expensive, or more because you think it's better? It's more expensive, you think maybe it's better. Does it matter if everyone else buys it? Sometimes it pays to fit into the group, because you may know that everybody's buying bad stuff, paying too much, whatever, but it's worth it to you to have something that will put you into the network. You may prefer the metric to imperial measures. You may think that Celsius is a better way to measure temperature than Fahrenheit, but everybody else is using Fahrenheit in the United States, so you might as well, get the Fahrenheit thermometer, even though you can probably get a Celsius thermometer pretty cheap in the US because nobody else wants it. The same for European plugs. You don't want something with a European plug in the United States. You don't want a metric ruler in the United States. You don't want to be the only one. It may be better, but it doesn't do you any good. You want to be part of the network. That's why I have Microsoft machinery, because UMass favors Microsoft. It's easier to fit into UMass if I have Microsoft technology than Apple. How would you react if prices rise? Buy less because of marginal utility. Buy more to show off. Buy more because the higher price signals it's a good product. Buy more because others are buying it and you want to fit in. Part of the network. And then sometimes it's just more, I mean, this is related to the network thing. Sometimes it's just more fun to do things together. I have 2 kids, as I've mentioned, and our preferred ski place, Smuggler's Notch, has only 2-person chairs. So they will ride together and I'll ride by myself. I mean, I'm happy that they're together. And sometimes I meet interesting people, but other times I'll just ride that long, slow lift to the top of a tall mountain. It's cold. It's lonely. It's not like you're going to take out your phone and read or anything. No, you'll drop it. And besides, well, no, you will get reception, but it's more fun to do it together. Ski lifts are more fun with company. Skiing is more fun if you're with other people. You get to talk about the snow. You get to talk about that tree that you almost hit. one of my daughters became a very, very good skier. And she would give me lessons. She'd teach me, ski the space, not the trees, when you go, through a glade. Anyway, it's more fun. And there are a lot of things that are more fun when you're doing them together. Going to a ball game is more fun when you're doing it together. Go to a concert is much more fun. Who wants to go to a concert by yourself? You want to go with somebody else and dance together and talk about it together and be excited about it together. You want to play pool? I used to play pool a lot when I was in college. I'm embarrassingly good at a couple of weird things. I was really good at pool. I was really good at pinball. And I'm actually a pretty good skier, though I can't do it anymore. Too old and decrepit. But I was pretty good at pool. And since I look like such a nerdy, fat, short, balding Jewish guy, I could usually hustle a game and surprise people. I was also very good at darts. Anyway, they're all more fun when you play together, especially if you make money off the other jerks. Okay. So you may have diminishing modular utility, playing pool. After a couple of hours at it, if you're doing it with other people after a couple of hours, but it's more fun for a while with the other people than it was by yourself. And that means that for the community, the more people who play pool, it's kind of like the more demand there'll be for pool at any price. And price and demand, quantity demand may actually be increasing with the price, because the experience is that more people, more demand drives up the price. Now there we've got a problem. All of these things lead to this problem. Then the community demand curves may slope up. But remember the first lecture, we talked about half of Orthodox economics, half of neoclassical economics is downward sloping demand. The other half is upward sloping supply. And those two meet at an equilibrium. But if demand slopes up and supply slopes up, they may never meet. And even if they meet, it may not be stable. Any deviation may lead to movements further away from the intersection. So intersection of supply and demand doesn't give you prices. What does? Now, classical economists, I'll give you a clue. Classical economists like Smith, David Ricardo, Karl Marx believed prices were set by cost of production, the cost of actually making the stuff, which is driven by the price of labor and the rate of return on investments. In practice, by the way, this is how businesses set prices. My father had his rule in his business. Price was twice the cost of the inputs of the coffee, the boxes, etc. The coffee beans, etc. Double that, and that's where he sold the stuff for. Never made quite sense to me, because sometimes there are greater expenses in shipping, etc. Sometimes less. Shouldn't that go into it? But that was his rule of thumb, which apparently he told me was the rule of thumb in delis throughout New York and many businesses, retail businesses in the New York City area. You charge twice the cost of the inputs of the raw materials. Rule of thumb, okay, but I'm not quite sure it makes sense. On the other hand, when I went to one summer, I worked for my father. At that point, my brother was taking over the business, and I started talking to my brother about marginal productivity, marginal cost, marginal utility. He told me to shut the fuck up. This is business, not economics. Okay. So that's demand curves, which may slope down, but probably slope up for at least often slope up. Now, demand curves also move, meaning that the amount purchased at any price will change. They may move up, in which case more will be purchased at a price, or the same amount will be purchased at a higher price. They may move down, meaning less will be purchased at a price, or the same amount will be purchased only at a lower price. This may reflect changes in preferences. People may just not like the stuff anymore, or they may like it more. Changes in income, rich people get more money, they'll buy more stuff, or changes in the price of substitutes, things that you buy instead of the thing, or changes in the price of complements with an E, things that go with something else, like gasoline goes with cars, or electricity goes with cars. Demand may change because of social circumstances, infrastructure. You build good roads, suddenly people want cars. Or the strength of networks. You build cell towers, people want cell phones. And just plain fads, people just suddenly want things. When demand curves move out, more will be purchased at any price, or consumers will pay more for the same amount. Demand curves move in, the opposite. Okay. Preferences. VHS. God, you guys probably don't even know what a VHS tape is, but just substitute DVD or CD. We have a CD player in my 2002 Camry, a car that got we drove like 2,000 miles last year. Car's going to last forever, maybe at this rate. I hope so. Next car is going to be electric, but because we, it's like, who goes anywhere? And then there's stuff that people now really want. Electric cars. Bandwidth, good bandwidth. Okay, preferences change. Some people are in, some people are out. These things always change. Can you explain taste? Can you explain why some people are in and some people are out? No. But the point is, this preference stuff, it's not always just God-given. It often comes from social policy. Why do the French drink wine and the Germans drink beer? This is not something that happens spontaneously. It's not that people from the west of the Rhine have a gene for wine and people east of the Rhine have a gene for beer. These were conscious social policies. When the Third Republic in the 1880s established a system of universal schooling in France, they put into the curriculum for elementary schools, teaching children to appreciate French culture, French wine, French cheese. In Germany, at the same time, with the rise, with the Second Reich, the Second Empire, the German Empire, established by Otto von Bismarck, they encouraged, subsidized beer production and beer consumption because beer was to be the German drink. Germans don't drink wine, that's for the French. We drink beer. Germans don't drink cheese, don't eat cheese. We eat bratwurst and sausages and sauerkraut. Seriously, these were socially government subsidized to encourage a sense of national culture. Language, of course, is a great example. Language isn't about individual preference. Do you choose to speak English because you've got a gene for English? No, you choose to speak English because that's the most commonly used language in the United States, especially in American higher ed. And if you are coming to this country from another country, you learn English so that you can fit into America's higher education, America's scientific enterprise, etc. And Americans expect this. When I was in Europe on sabbatical, our younger daughter, the one who's a really good skier, met us in Rome, and we took her up to Florence, where my wife and I had spent much of our honeymoon. And Tasha got sick. We took her to a hospital. My wife was frantically studying the phrase book. And I said, no, you don't need to worry. Doctors, they'll all speak English. No, no. The Italians have the lowest English speaking proficiency in Europe. And the doc, I said, now they all study English language textbooks in medical school. Well, apparently not in Italy. So it's a good thing my wife picked up some phrases. On the way out, she wanted to pay. And the doctor said, oh, all done, ciao, ciao. And she found a nurse who spoke a little English, waved a credit card. How do I pay? The nurse said, oh, no pay. Italian hospital, not like America. The prescription was awesome. 2 prescriptions, basically 1/4, 1/5 the price at CVS. Okay. Why do men wear ties in summer? Go to office buildings in the summer, there's always a fight between the women who want the air conditioning turned down and the men who want it turned up, because the men are dressed inappropriately in jackets and ties, and the women dress sensibly. Okay, on the other hand, women wear pantyhose. Men don't. Okay, what moves demand curves change in income? Get more money. Why is China now the world's biggest greenhouse gas producer? They're still relatively efficient compared to the United States, although the United States is getting more efficient while China's getting less. Okay, anyway, more money, more stuff. Shifts demand curves for oil out. Changes in the price of substitutes and complements. Complements, something you consume with something else. Complement for college, beer, textbooks, no-dos, coffee, all of the above. When the price of a complement rises, demand falls. If gas gets more expensive, you don't want a big gas guzzling car. Gas gets cheaper, people start buying big gas guzzling cars. Substitutes consumed instead of something else. Price of pot rises, demand for beer increases because people use less pot. Price of pot falls, demand for beer falls. So what's the substitute for college? The army, jail, McDonald's? I don't know. Okay, social factors move demand curves, fads, social infrastructure networks. Like I said, conscious government policy, changes in laws. Northampton, Massachusetts has like at least half a dozen pot stores. And last time we were driving through, there was another one opening. Why? Massachusetts legalized pot. And Northampton was like, great, let them roll, let it rip. Amherst, by contrast, with all the students, been really restrictive. There's no pot downtown. There are 1 or 2 pot stores on the periphery of town on University Drive, but that's it. It makes it harder to get pot, presumably affecting the location of the supply curve. Oh, sorry, the demand curve. Fads. Everybody picks on Twilight. This one's not fair. Come on. Of course, there were bad movies, but it's like there are a lot of bad movies. Don't dump on it so much. Okay. Hard to go against fads. There is one of my favorite places in restaurants in Paris, by the way, is an Alsatian place that has good beer, bratwurst, sausages, and sauerkraut. And potatoes. Good German food in Paris at Place de République. Okay, social infrastructure creates networks, social substitutes and complements. Build roads and cars become more possible. Cars and roads are complements. Build mass transit And that's a substitute for cars, a substitute for gasoline. Sewers and clean water systems are a substitute for bottled water, though it may not always seem that way. Great neoclassicist, Milton Friedman, no relation. He was sort of an intellectual grandfather, whatever, given people I studied with. And besides, he was such a brilliant economist, and he contributed so much, and he was so wrong. But anyway, it's said of him that he celebrated drivers while ignoring the roads, emphasized individual choice rather than the social factors shaping individual choice. Infrastructure investments can work as complementary substitutes, like I said. Build an airport, that's a complement for air travel, a substitute for train travel. Build mass transit or build high-speed rails, that's a substitute for air travel or for cars. The social infrastructure is vital for understanding individual demand. Okay, acting as individuals, we buy less and prioritize goods, diminishing marginal utility. That's the basis of Orthodox economics. But it doesn't really hold when you're talking about people who have experience or people who are part of communities. And then demand curves shift. Okay. We covered a lot of ground here today and a lot of really, really important issues. So think about it and have a good day. Bye-bye.